Let's get next up with a guy we actually mock drafted yesterday. We did our last final mock draft, which, by the way, TJ Sanders we got as well. We did get 2 into that draft. But Darius Alexander out of Toledo. And it's not often you hear, us talk about a player from Toledo. And I feel like this kid is a guy who benefited a lot last year. Quinyon Mitchell obviously was excellent prospect in the draft last year, went to the Eagles, so we'll ignore that part of it. But a guy that Rob and I were extremely high on and obviously proven to be correct. He did have an excellent rookie year. But when you watched his tape, Alexander was the guy who kind of popped out, and he followed it up with another great year this year, and it's really kind of put him onto the map there at that point. Plus the fact that he flat out excelled at the combine. People do love that always. The combine people that love that. 6'4", 310 pounds. This past season, 12 games, 40 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 1 interception, which, by the way, is for a touchdown. Not often you hear about guys scoring touchdowns in the defensive tackles position. 4 passes deflected, 90.1 PFF grade, 3rd team All-MAC in 23 and 24. And like I said, the big thing with him is combine performance. Really, what people already kind of knew who he was from seeing the tape last year at Mitchell, and a lot of scouts had that in the back of their mind. But then what he did at the combine was just great. He's stronger than his size would suggest. Again, 310 pounds, which is a nice weight overall for a defensive tackle there. It's not ridiculously low, but it's not the 340, 350 defensive tackle that you go, this guy's a beast, but he plays like that kind of guy. He's great anchor when needed. He's a run stopper. As far as the negatives, he is an over pursuer, meaning that if he's supposed to go, if he's going after, like I say, a running back, for example, he will go off to where he thinks that running back is going, to the point where he can't pivot and change if that running back cuts. So that's an issue at times in run defense. You got to stay in your lane. You got to have your gap covered at that point. He does also lack a little finesse. Like I said, he's a strong guy, but he doesn't necessarily have the speed in the way he plays at that point to go along with that. But listen, you're seeing more and more small school guys all of a sudden coming out there and making a little bit of an impact there in the league. I think he's going to be a 2nd-round pick. I'm intrigued by him. I think he's a guy that's going to be a little more risk than some of the guys we've talked about so far. That's for sure. Whenever you're coming from that kind of a school, there's a risk involved. But I do think he's going to be a pretty decent player in this league.
Yeah. No, definitely I think so. Like, smallest school, like, he beat up in this competition, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. And like, when you talk about finesse, like, that's, you start teaching more technique, and which would help, complement his size, which will lead into some finesse. You can't really teach the proper finesse part, but you can improve a lot of that with technique.
Oh yeah. So like I said, not a bad option, that's for sure there, especially as we're going to be looking. Like I said, I really think day 2 to maybe the 4th round, like, there's going to be a whole lot of tackles taken off the board there. And I think that's when the Giants will probably make their move for D tackle. So it's a good chance this kid really could be a New York Giant there after when the whole thing's all said and done.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.